You're welcome to the Messiah channel, End Time Prophetic channel. We are awakening the Hebrews who are scattered over the world because the Messiah is coming and the Messiah is ready to gather his elect from all the four corners of the earth. And because the Messiah is going to gather the Hebrew Israelites as decreed in Isaiah 11, efforts are made to confuse and deceive the Hebrew Israelites, to take their identity away, to confuse them with their identity, to de-Hebrewize them, if I want to use that term, de-Hebrewization. De-Hebrewization means the efforts that are made by the enemies of the Hebrews to take away their identity, to strip them of their identity. And when somebody wants to control you, have control over you, and one of the things that they do is to strip you of your identity, your cultural identity. They have to destroy your original identity and impose their own identity on you, their own thinking on you, so that you will not be the same. You will not be the same as your original self. And so here we are talking about the plot to de-Hebrewize the Hebrews. In other words, the plot and the methods that are used to take away the Hebrewness in the Hebrew Israelite, so that you will forget about his or her identity. You will no longer be a Hebrew. We're talking about prophecy, and we are saying that the Lord told the Hebrews that as a result of disobedience, they will be scattered to all the four corners of the earth, and they will forget their identity. They wouldn't know who they are. And that prophecy has been fulfilled. And at the time when the Messiah is coming, as we are doing the awakening of the Hebrews, we have to go back to the methods that are used by the enemies of the Hebrews to de-Hebrewize the Hebrew Israelite. In other words, to take away their identity so that they will lose consciousness of their Hebrew heritage, Hebrew identity. If you lose consciousness of your Hebrew identity, then you will not even think about the promises of Elohim that are waiting for you. You will be gathered from all the four corners where you were scattered to, and the Lord will be your king, and you will inherit the promised land that was given to your ancestors. So we are going over the methods that are used to de-Hebrewize the Hebrew Israelite. And if I talk about persecution, that is general. Of course, persecution was used to afflict the Hebrew Israelite, and they were scattered to all the four corners of the earth. And as they were being scattered, certain methods were used, and the purpose of those methods, the modus operandi, was to de-Hebrewize the Hebrew Israelite. And so we are going over the methods one by one, and we will number them if we are able to. The first one is name and name changing. The enemy will change your Hebrew name, and the purpose is to deny you your Hebrew identity. You forget that you are a Hebrew. And so if you go into the Bible, the book of Daniel, you remember three Hebrew boys, and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Their names were changed. And Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, they were not, the names were not the original names. They were stripped of their Hebrew identity, and they were given Babylonian names. The names of the gods of Babylon were given to the children of Jacob when they were sent into captivity. Name changing. And that's the old method, and it is still working. And those of you who know about the history of the transatlantic slave trade and trans-Saharan slave trade, you remember that Africans were enslaved, and they were located in particular places, the slave dungeons. And if you go to the slave dungeons, if you do a tour there, they will tell you the first thing that they did when they captured the Africans was to change their names before they were put in ships. Their names were changed, and they were very meticulous. Their Hebrew names were changed. If there's a name ending with Yah, Y-A-H, definitely it's an indication the person is a Hebrew. The names were changed, African names were changed, and European names were adopted. And if the ship is owned by Denmark, then Danish names will be given. If the ship is owned by the French names will be given. And so names of the enslaved men and women were changed, and they were given the names of their captors before they were put on the ships and before they were um, they were sent through the Middle Passage to the various destinations. And names kept changing because Africans changed hands from one slave owner to another. So name change. The second method is tribal confusion, to confuse the Hebrews. The Hebrews lived in tribes, and that is correct because we have the 12 tribes of Jacob, of course. They lived together, and they were given locations, but they knew the tribes where they were in and they came from. Paul remembers that he is a Benjamite, and of course, Solomon is of the tribe of Judah, the Messiah is of the tribe of Judah. And so tribal confusion came in. The Hebrews were scattered over the world. They no longer identify with their tribes and, and country because they were mixed together, and the purpose of mixing them together was to destroy their Hebrew identity and to deny them the opportunity to remember who they were, to remember their Hebrew identity. They also manipulated their language. They destroy their language, and that is a major method, modus operandi for the enemy to destroy the language of the captives, and that is what you see on the African continent. When the land of Africa was partitioned by European powers, they made sure to destroy the local languages and impose European languages on them. They call it the policy of assimilation. And the rationale behind it is that the African culture was primitive and barbaric, in quotation mark. And so, as a result of the divine responsibility of the Europeans, they had to assimilate the African people, and so their languages had to be changed. And of course, the Hebrews who were taken from the shores of Africa, they were exposed to a language that is not their own. They would not speak the Hebrew language. As time passed by, people forgot their language. And as we are talking about language, it is important for you to know that black people who are responsible for the civilization that occurred in ancient Egypt. They were responsible for developing the Hebrew language. They were instrumental in the development of the Hebrew language. And I read a book, and the title is called Ancient Egypt and its contribution to the English language. I met the author himself. He's a Ghanaian, and he has documented how the English language that I'm speaking was developed by black men and women in ancient Egypt. And so when you hear somebody speaking English, you must know that the origins of the English language is ancient Egypt, and ancient Egypt was occupied by black people who are responsible for the ancient civilization that emerged in Egypt, the major civilization in the world, which was known to the historians of old, including Herodotus. So language, they changed the language of the Hebrew so that the Hebrew would be detached from his Hebrew heritage. Number four, new thinking. They gave the Hebrew a new thinking. You can call it psychological warfare. You can call it indoctrination. And it's a new thinking. They give you a worldview that is about Eurocentric worldview. And so that your worldview is not about the Ancient of Days, it's not about the Lord who delivered your ancestors from Egypt. The worldview is a European worldview, so you will not think about your heritage, you think about Europe. And that's why a writer from Kenya, Wationgo, he said that the African must decolonize the mind. And so after independence, when political independence has been given to the African nations, it is time for the African to decolonize his mind, because throughout history, the worldview of the African is the worldview of the European. That is a strategy used by the European to de-Hebrewize the Hebrew by giving the Hebrew and the European mindset. And so he thinks that God is white, the angels are white, the Messiah who is coming to gather the outcasts of Israel and the dispersed of Judah, he is white. And that is a worldview totally contradicting the Hebrew heritage of the Negro, if you will. And the fifth method is name calling, calling you names. They call you names, and those names are derogatory. They are not calling you by your Hebrew name, and they are not even calling you by the slave name that they gave you. They are calling you derogatory names, and the end name, is there. And we can look at some of the names. Abid, Abed, and if you are in an Arab country and you see an Arab calling somebody Abid, Abed, it means it's a derogatory word. The person who is being called Abid is a black person. And when you are in Israel and then you hear somebody being called Cushi, oh, the person is Cushi, it's derogatory. Cushi means you are black. And so they are using blackness in a negative manner. Skin color black, they are using it in a negative manner. And so you are a black person, you are a Hebrew, but they say you are a Hebrew. They are not saying you are a Hebrew, they are saying you are a Negro, and they are calling you other and names. You are an Abid in the Middle East, you are a Cushi in Israel. And so even in Israel, the land of Canaan, the land of Palestine, you are a Hebrew, and your Hebrew identity would not be recognized. Your skin color will be obvious, and of course, the derogatory term that they use for you is that you are Cushi. Cushi means you are dark. Of course, when they call you a Cushi, they are denying your Hebrew heritage. Of course, they don't believe that you can be a Hebrew because you are a Cushi. And as we are discussing the word Cushi, I refer you to Zephaniah 1 verse 1, the genealogy of the prophet Zephaniah. The prophet Zephaniah calls himself the son of Cushi. It means that Zephaniah was the son of a man named Cushi. And when you read the Bible scholars are in agreement that the word Cushi means somebody who is dark skinned from Cush, the kingdom of Cush. And they were not using that in a derogatory manner because they considered people from Ethiopia and people from Egypt and people from Cush as black people that skin. But later on, the word Cushi became a derogatory word. And so you are a Hebrew and you are in Israel, and they will not recognize your Hebrew identity. They will call you a Cushi. So calling people by names, derogatory names, is an attempt, psychological warfare to de-Hebrewize that person, to take away that person's Hebrew identity. Number 6, censorship. And when we talk about censorship, we are saying that it's okay for a white person to say he is a Jew or he's a Hebrew, but it's not okay for a black person to say that you are a Hebrew or you are a Jew. They will censor your opinion. They will censor your First Amendment right, the right to express yourself. They will sponsor your right of association. They will deny you of your true Hebrew heritage because they will censor whatever that you say. And you see that censorship going on online and offline. And I'm sure that if you write a book that is critical of the powers that be, and the books will not be published. And as I'm making this video in the United States, particularly in Florida, there are certain books that are banned because they are considered as teaching critical race theory. And so if a book is saying blacks are Hebrews, that book is a threat. Censorship is very intensive, and I remember two black celebrities, Kyle Irving and Kanye West. They were censored to some extent when they boldly came out to say that black people are Jews, they are Hebrews. And so that is a way of de-Hebrewizing the Hebrew. And the seventh method that we're talking about is conversion. Conversion means that bringing somebody from a different faith or no faith to another faith. And that is very ridiculous. It's very hypocritical because people go to Nigeria and then they know the Igbos are already Hebrews, but they try to convert them to the religion of Judaism. How can somebody who is already a Hebrew be converted to be a Jew, to worship Judaism religion? Conversion. And so even in America, there are some Hebrews who have already converted to be Jews. And so we have Jews of color. We have black Jews in America. They have converted. And if you go into their history, you will know that originally they were Hebrews, but they decided to convert again. In the same way that I believe some people are Hebrews from the tribe of Judah in America, but they have converted to become members of the nation of Islam. So conversion is a way of de-Hebrewization, particularly when a Jewish organization goes to an African country and goes to an area where they know they are Hebrews originally, and then they try to make them convert to Judaism. It means that they don't recognize your Hebrew identity, and when they convert you, they will be okay because now they know they converted you. You were not a Hebrew, you were not a Jew, and they have converted you to their Judaism religion, and they will feel very happy because they never would think that a Hebrew is a Negro and a Negro can be a Hebrew. Number 8, the method, white washing. Anything that is black, you change it to white. The icons depicting black people in the Bible, they are painted or repainted, painted and repainted and repainted in white. And this is what we call white washing. Number 9 is rabbinic hegemony. You are Hebrew, you are a black person, you are a Hebrew, or you are a black person and you call yourself a Jew. They want you to succumb to the teachings of the rabbis around, and they are using not the Torah, they are not using the Bible, they are using the Talmud. The Talmud is a book that is used to train the rabbis. And the teachings in the Talmud, a lot of them and some of them are anti-Christ. They are anti the teachings of the Messiah, and they are against the commandments of the God of Israel. But that's the worldview they give you, and so they subject you to rabbinic hegemony, the white supremacy hegemony, and the Jewish hegemony of the rabbis. They subject you to that because they are in control, and it's a way of de-Hebrewizing your Hebrew identity. And number 10 is infiltration. Infiltration. You are a Hebrew Israelite and you are a member of the so-called Hebrew Israelite movement in Chicago or in Detroit, in Baltimore, and they want to de-Hebrewize you. They want to take away your Hebrew identity. What do? They will infiltrate your organization to create confusion, and then they will use the confusion to expose you. And the first thing they will say to the media that you are not a Hebrew, you are a member of a cult, C-U-L-T. And that is the strategy that is being used to de-Hebrewize the Hebrew Israelite. And there are a lot of the strategies that are used to de-Hebrewize the Hebrew Israelite, but these are some of them, and you need to be aware of them, how they changed the name of the Hebrew before the Hebrew was put on ships, and how they changed the tribal affiliations of the Hebrew Israelites by mixing the tribes and people together, so that they will forget their allegiance to their Hebrew heritage, and of course giving them a new thinking, European thinking. Even writing a Bible that is different from the original Bible, a slave Bible that is a what they call a distortion of the original Bible. They are all part to de-Hebrewize the Hebrew Israelites. And so when you know their modus operandi, then you know how to counteract that. And you have to know that we are in a spiritual warfare at the time when the Messiah is coming to gather the outcasts of Israel and the dispersed of Judah. The Hebrewization strategy will continue. They will continue to de-Hebrewize you, but you have to know that the awakening that is coming is supernatural, and it will overcome all methods of de-Hebrewization. And this is the message that I have for you. And so that you'll be aware of the de-Hebrewization going on among the Hebrews, who are the true children of Jacob, are waiting for regathering by the Messiah, the Lion of the tribe of Judah. Thank you for watching this video. I'm leaving my email address, raptureafrica@yahoo.com. One word, small letters. Thank you for watching the video. Subscribe to the channel, share the video about the de-Hebrewization of the Hebrew. Thank you.